All I wanted to do in my life was play footy at a professional level. Ever since I could walk, watch TV, that's all I wanted to do. I had 2 cracks, tossed them both away, and footy side was always going to take care of itself. You know, without sounding arrogant or cocky, like the footy's always been the easy part for me. The relationship with myself has never been great. My life for 27 years, and obviously as a kid you don't count them, but like for as long as I was alive, every day was a battle. I wanted to be the best footy player I could be, but I also wanted people just to respect me for who I am, I suppose. I don't think I really had that as a kid. Whenever I walk into a room, my first thought still is, they all hate me. Because that's what I've been told my whole life. The most weird or sickening part to me as a person is like the worst things could happen to me before a game, before training, or before a big event that involves football. And as soon as it goes to football, nothing else matters. I've been on the back page of the Newcastle Herald every single day. A lot of people, that would rattle them. For me, it's kind of like, oh, well, this is just another day at the office. No matter how good you go or what numbers you put out there or whatever it is, people are always going to find a reason to bag you if you're one of them guys, and I just happen to be one. When I got to England, the narrative sort of flipped for me. Everyone loved me. So I've been at this club for 48 hours. They're singing a song about me. They love me. My numbers on flag. First touch, I drop it. I'm thinking, mate, anyway, I'm behind the try line. Yourself. These fans are still chanting my name, whatever. We weren't expected to win. I go on to have one of the best 20 minutes of football I've ever played. Next touch, line break, try assist. Next touch, try. Next touch, try assist. Then I tweak my hammy.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is such a sick episode. I've been looking forward to this one. But honestly, the podcast went even better than I thought. We have Jackson Hastings on the pod now. He's been in the news lately, all the media talking about him, his future, his position, all that sort of stuff. I get his take on all that. And Jackson's been on like a wild journey, both on and off the field, crazy highs and lows. We talk about that redemption arc. But you know the way I like to do things, I like to understand things on a deeper level. So we talk about what was going on behind the scenes, things that you might not have ever heard about Jackson or his upbringing or the things that were going on at certain times. A big focus on some mental health things as well. That's pretty eye-opening to a lot of people out there, and just the ups and downs of footy, and get his take on, and him clarifying his future and all that sort of good stuff as well. So bang episode, generally hour and a half, went like that. And that's when you know it's a good conversation, when things just flow. So I think you're going to enjoy this one a lot. We'll get into it into a second, but if I can ask for a few waivers, as I always do, guys, appreciate the support lately. Since I've been asking for it, you guys have been really getting around the podcast and supporting it, so I appreciate it so much. If you're listening on YouTube, do me a favor, like this video if you haven't already. It takes 2 seconds, and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. The more the channel grows, the bigger, better guests we get on each week, so it really is important. I do appreciate it a lot. And then if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you could give us a 5-star review, I really appreciate that. It really helps the podcast grow, guys. So thanks so much. Appreciate all of you for doing that already over the last few weeks. The support's been immense. Let's get into the podcast. All right, Jackson Hastings, welcome to the podcast, brother. I'm really excited to chat with you. Obviously, you've done a bunch of podcasts before. I've done heaps of research, and you know a lot about you. And you've talked about your journey, and I think we will touch on that, like the journey you've gone on. But the shit I want to kind of knuckle down on is like your journey, yeah, but more of the human side, and kind of some of the things that we're going on deeper. But for those that don't know, Jackson Hastings, over 100 NRL games, another 87 in the Super League. Had a pretty up and down career in the early stages, and then you went over to the Super League, kept Salford up in the first year. I want to really speak about that whole experience. One Man of Steel, which for those that aren't familiar with the Super League is like the Dally M over there, and then came back, big redemption story over here. Obviously the run you guys went on last year was pretty impressive. So I want to talk about all that, but not in necessarily the footy way that you usually talk about it, more of like the personal human side of things, because we were just chatting, went for a coffee before we started. We've both live pretty unique lives and share a lot of similarities as well, and you've been pretty open over the last 12 months or so about the mental health journey that you've gone on as well. So I'm keen to chat about all that. But first of all, thanks for giving us your time, bro, making the trip down from Newey.
That's the best intro I've ever had. So
there we
thanks,
go.
mate. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
yeah, bro, I'm really grateful for your time. Where I want to start, it might seem like a random place to start, considering, where you are now, where you started, but I actually want to start around that Super League move time, and we'll rewind and talk about some other things. But the reason I want to start there is because upon doing my research on you, for you it seems like obviously you came into Roosters in first grade so young, playing in the halves. Everyone I speak to, Ice, fucking Blake Austin, if you play in the halves, you're going to get 10 times more scrutiny than everyone else. Yeah. Young kid, obviously with ADHD, and now me and you talking and laughing about that. I think some of the issues you've run into would have been definitely linked to that, went over there. But it seems like for you, that move over to the Super League was like where something clicked for you, whether it was before, whether it was right when that happened, where you're like, if I want to be the best player I can or best person, I can't just be worrying about Jackson Hastings, the footy player. Yeah. It's about Jackson Hastings, the human being and the man, right?
Yeah.
seems like that's where it started. So I want to talk about all that, but where I want to start in terms of my first question for you, where was that moment? Where was the moment where you fucking looked yourself in the mirror and been like, I've got to make some changes off the field in order to get the best out of myself in all facets?
Bro, you know when it like clicked for me was when I was actually in the sky on the plane on the way to England or Dubai, like the first stopover. I remember obviously having the tears with my mum, my sisters, my family. I'm on this plane going over to England, 22 years old. Like I just felt like my whole career was over before it started.
Still so young, bro, 22. You'd done a lot by 22.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I'd had so many highs and so many lows, been in the paper and news for all the right and wrong reasons. And then I just had this moment where I like got up to go to the bathroom and literally that just stared in the mirror for a little bit. And I'm like, I've got one more crack to hopefully do something with my life. Like all I wanted to do in my life was play footy at a professional level. Obviously, had a famous father, but just loved the NRL ever since I could walk, watch TV. That's all I wanted to do. So for me, I pretty much tossed it away. I had 2 cracks, tossed them both away. And then, as I said, I was in the sky on this big-ass plane going over to the UK and I just wanted to make every post a winner. And as you said, like the footy side was always going to take care of itself, you know, without sounding arrogant or cocky. Like the footy's always been the easy part for me. The relationships and the relationship with myself has never been great. So yeah, I wanted to nail that, and don't get me wrong, like the footy was flowing for me in the UK, but until I met my partner and she could sort of see some cracks in myself, that's when it started really lifting for me, and then like my own like mental health journey started probably from then. I always knew like coming through school, lack of friends, lack of being invited to places, it never worried me and still doesn't to this day, but I knew that I was a little bit different to everyone else, and I still am to this day, and it's got me in some trouble, but I think going through what I've gone through at the Knights now with their help away from footy with my mental health journey, I think people are starting to realise.
It's pretty interesting that you say it changed when you met like a lot of it changed when you met your missus. Did you meet her over here before you went over there? You met her in the UK?
I met her in the UK. She thought I was a gypsy. So for anyone who doesn't know what a gypsy is, it's an Irish traveller. They have red hair, red beard, mullet. So I was wearing a gold chain. I don't know who I thought I was, but just met her at a nightclub. We were on our Christmas party, or Christmas do, as they say in England, and I was just hanging over a nightclub in Manchester and just saw her in a bright dress and just sent my mate. Shout out to Joey Lussick. He was he doesn't drink, so I sent him down and made sure that she knew I was Australian, and yeah, the rest is history.
So she a Pommy or
yeah, she's from Blackpool. God love her. Yeah. We'll just say Manchester. She's from Manchester, but yeah.
So to what you were saying, bro, and it's such a all this shit that I'm going to talk about, this is not like I've known this stuff my whole life. I spoke about, I've been with my missus for 3 years. She's made me learn a lot about different things. But I was always really ambitious and focused on growth, but I was like, building blocks forward rather than going deep and looking at the foundations. But you said something that's so true, and I think it takes like a lot of maturity to even get to that point. You said like your relationships with other people weren't great, but neither was the relationship with yourself. Yeah. And I think if you can't first have a safe and secure, healthy relationship with yourself, it's really difficult to have proper relationships, deep connections with other people, because you put your walls up, you get triggered, you act in ways you don't mean and you don't understand, and it all comes back to shit within, which we'll get into. Yeah. But there's also like something about the altitude. I don't know. I was just, when you're on a plane, shit hits you differently and you start understanding. But what were some of the things, because I know you had like your notes open on the phone and you're writing some notes. What were some of the thoughts that popped into your mind or commitments you wanted to make to yourself moving over to take that chance? Yeah,
well, obviously, like I wanted to be the best footy player I could be. That's what I wanted to make a living out of doing. And obviously, if you can't play the game, no one cares if you're the nicest bloke in the world. If you can't play, then you're not going to get the money you want. You're not going to be in the position you want. You're not going to win the comps or whatever you want to achieve in life doing that. But I also wanted people just to respect me for who I am. I suppose I don't think I really had that as a kid. Always got like touted as a good player or a great up and coming talent, but I always got labelled like arrogant, cocky, all the words that you could think of, the nasty words you can think of. I got labelled, and a lot of it had to do with like having relationships with people. Like I was never one to worry if I got invited to that party or got invited to have a coffee. I'm still weirdly comfortable with going and walking across the road and sitting there for an hour with my headphones in, listening to a podcast, having a coffee on my own, or going out for dinner and having dinner on my own, which sounds really weird, but I don't know. I just like my own company at a lot of times. But meeting my partner, she's opened up a lot of things and encouraged me to like actually break down walls to go and spend more time with people. And as I said, like the arrogance always gets confused with probably my lack of confidence and what people sort of think of me. Whenever I walk into a room, my first thought still is they all hate me, because that's what I've been told my whole life, and that's kind of sad in a way. And I'm 28 years old now, so it like it's not as like deep as what it used to be, but I still get nervous walking into a room if there's, I don't know, 5 or more people and they're already in that room and I walk in past them. My first thoughts, geez, they must be talking about me. So still breaking down that barrier and knowing that not everyone's against you. The world's not against you. And I suppose that's my relationship that I'm building with myself, is that, you know, like, the people are going to think of you what you think of yourself. And if you carry yourself in a certain way, they'll probably tend to think of you in that way. And I'm still struggling with that. There's days where I'm really good and I could walk into a room and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna crack a joke here and make people laugh. I think I'm the funniest bloke in the world. I'm not. But they'll laugh and the ice is broken straight away. Or there's other days where I walk into the sheds even now and people can look at me straight away and go, oh, he must be a bit off today. And you can see they're a bit standoffish. So that's the relationship with myself and making sure I wake up consistently knowing that, all right, I'm going to have a good start of the day, going to have a coffee, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to be loud because people like it when I'm loud and annoying and saying jokes because people feel comfortable around me then. But if I walk in and I've had a bad start to the day, it tends to be rocky for everyone else. So just trying to work on that.
Again, and like, not to keep relating this to my own experience, but obviously I'm not a professional athlete, but like navigating my own brain and the way I feel every day, like sometimes I wake up and I have the biggest day planned. I've put all my meetings aside. I'm only working on this one project myself. And like, that's the shit that's the most fun, right? Yeah. And then I sit down and my brain is just like, for whatever reason, I can't concentrate. Yeah. For you as someone that's had these sort of like mental health sort of like, you know, journey yourself and living with ADHD and finding out way later in life, only very recently that you have it. If you're off, like having one of those days, is it difficult to get the best out of you on the field, or when you cross that white line, does things sort of change?
You know what, the most weird or sickening part to me as a person is like the worst things could happen to me before a game, before training, or before a big event that involves football. And as soon as it goes to football, nothing else matters. It's like just everything is a blur and footy is the main thing. Like, it's weird. Like, everyone obviously in a professional environment in any sport takes a book into meetings and writes down like, oh, we're playing against Nathan Cleary this week. He loves running a double drop. He gets out the back of Isaiah, like all these little things, right? And I take a book in there. I'm not too good or too smart or better than anyone else, but I tend to do my best work actually just watching it. And it could be math, it could be English, it could be any subject at school. I'd get grade E's, D's, F's. I couldn't do it. But with footy, it just sort of like sinks into my brain. I write down 1 or 2 notes, but like I kind of, because I watch so much footy, I know what's coming before it's even on the screen. You know, I've probably watched that game twice before the coach has even shown it. So, I mean, for me, footy, I'm so obsessed with it that nothing else matters when I step on that footy field. And as you said, when you cross the white line, whether it be training, I could have had, I don't know, a news article that says I'm going over to England, which was this week, and I've been on the back page of the Newcastle Herald every single day. A lot of people, that would rattle them. For me, it's kind of like, oh, well, this is just another day at the office, go to train really well, go home, on the news, whatever, play on the weekend. And I don't always play well, but it's never a distraction for me ever. And it hasn't been probably for 6 or 7 years, I reckon. Because
you've been on the back pages, like you've been a name, for whatever reason, the media have their favourite players they always like to bring up. And, you know, they're trying to make money. They know the sort of people that get clicks. But that's been you your entire career from back in your Roosters days. Yep. Did it affect you more back then? Or did you, like, how has that journey been in, like, trying to, like, block it out and not, you know, be too fucking cut or annoyed when you know something's not, for example, you know for a fact something's not true and like 3-4 people are writing articles saying it is and you just wish to say like, bro, you've got no idea, like.
Bro, I used to message it, mate. Like I used to message a few when Instagram first started, or even on Facebook Messenger, or I'd somehow get their number. I'd actually message the journo and it put me back like another 6 pegs, because they'd be like, right, well, I'm not going to reply to this little prick. I've got ammo on him now. And then they'd make the story 10 times bigger. So like when I was 17, 18, 19, probably until I went to England, it bothered me. And it really, really bothered me. Like I'd see something on Twitter, for example, or Instagram, and it'd give me the shits, and I'd get red mist over it. I'd have to take the dogs to the park. Like, am I going to spray this bloke? Am I not? When I got to England, the narrative sort of flipped for me. Everyone loved me. Like I was revered in such high regard. Like I spent so much time with the fans in the community. I did all I could for both teams I played for. Majority of the fan base loved me. And then when I come back, it all started again. But because I just created this like thick skin when I went over there, I was like, nothing can be worse than what I've just gone through. So now when I read or hear or see, or sometimes I get a giggle out of like what people are saying. Like there was like a thing, I don't follow this bloke, but that Clarkie's column and a guy called Rando who does all these stats do a thing, and there was like a player poll, not a player poll, there was like a statistical thing, which is not their opinion. It's literally statistical based on top players per age. And as soon as I saw my name in my age bracket, 28, I was like, I'm going to get rinsed on this, but I'll go have a laugh. And some bloke was like, there's no way Hastings can be there, he's shit. And the comment under it was like, mate, it's literally the statistics. Like, you don't get an opinion on it, mate. So like stuff like that actually makes me laugh because no matter how good you go or what numbers you put out there or whatever it is, people are always going to find a reason to bag you if you're one of them guys, and I just happen to be one of them. So I'm kind of happy to roll with the punches at the moment.
Isn't that interesting, man? It's so funny. Obviously, as well, like I said before, the media have their targets, and people they like writing about certain people because they know it's going to trigger a response in the public, whether it be good or bad. They don't really give a shit about the truth in some aspects. They're all the media is looking to sell clicks. Newspapers are not what they used to be. They need to, do it be even more clickbaity than they used to be. But what's so interesting is like you said, you had a couple experiences with clubs in Sydney that didn't probably end the way you would have liked. Going over, like you said, only 22 years old, for you then maybe it feels like, fuck, it's my last chance. Yep. Obviously, in reflection, you had another 10, 15 years ahead of you. But going over there and seeing the complete flip and how much you were loved by the fans, what was that like for you? Was it a bit of a shock? Obviously, it's a positive thing, but what was that like?
It was awkward, man, because even the other day when I got my 100th NRL game jersey presented to me, it was really awkward for me to have so many people send in nice messages and say nice things about me. I suppose I just become accustomed to people saying negative things and never having anything nice to say about me or you're this, you're that. When someone actually does say something nice about me, I get real awkward. Like even now, like I could get a rap on video. I could make a good tackle, set up a try, score one, and like the coach could just be like, "Jacko, that's great work," blah blah. And I just sit there and I like kind of shrink a little bit. It's kind of like, oh, he's actually saying something nice about me, and that's not the coach or the assistant coach. That's just my mechanism towards anyone saying anything nice to me. I build up such probably a wall to the negative comments that they come like second nature to me. Like, that's sweet, I'm expecting that. But as soon as I get a good comment or a fan loves me or, like at the end of my first stint over in England, I remember my last game, they took my jersey, my pants, my socks, and I'm on their shoulders and they're all singing like this song about me. And I was like, oh, this is what life can be like. And I it kind of really changed my perspective on what it's like to be revered. So, I mean, I get a bit of that in Newcastle. Obviously, some fans love you, some fans hate you. But, it was a really cool time in my life. I've got some videos on my phone that whenever I need a bit of a pick-me-up, I'll go back for the favourites and have a look at some of them. They're pretty cool.
I feel like this is something I've related to as well a little bit. I think taking a compliment is a skill. Yeah. It's I don't know if skill is the right word, but it's something that needs to be learned.
It's an ability, I reckon, yeah.
I know, and because I don't know, I think it's part of it, but it's not all of it, that whole Aussie tall poppy syndrome where taught culturally not to like celebrate your wins and like minimize it and be like, oh, it's not that good, you know what I mean? So we're taught to do that, but then there's another element of like, you got your walls up so much for the negative stuff that when something positive comes, it almost rattles you in a way.
Awkward, yeah,
You're
it's
like,
weird.
Holy shit, how do I deal with this? And I was listening to a podcast with you and Ice, and you mentioned something that really stood out to me. Was like you mentioned as well, you didn't really care about if you didn't get invited to the parties in school, and you played under 16s and under 18s for New South Wales for Origin. You were clearly really talented at footy, and you use that as a shield to like not really develop relationships or keep you apart. It's like, I don't need them, I've got footy. What was that like for you back then? Was it a conscious thing that you realised you were doing it, or is that something upon reflection as you got older you realised you were doing to protect yourself?
Yeah, definitely at the time I probably put on a bit of a mask, like a bit of a front. Like I think every kid from like your teenage years going through school, you want to be liked.
Of course.
So like I was obviously putting a mask on going, well, I don't need to be liked. I'm good at footy. Like if they don't like me, then that's kind of on them. But then as I've got older, I'm 28 years old now. So we're talking 14 years on and I'm going to these mental health workshops. I'm sitting down with psychiatrists and we're breaking down like my childhood, what I was like then compared to what I am now. Obviously, it was a massive wall that I put up and a massive mask, and it was fake as anything. And that's why I laugh at some social media stuff now. Like, I'll put a little bit of stuff out there every now and then on, like, it might be a little quote on how I'm actually feeling. And that's not for anyone to feel sorry for me. It's just like me expressing, like, yeah, I'm a footy player. I get paid well to play football. I know I act like I'm bulletproof on the field, try and get in all these argy-bargies and that, but I've actually got emotions. And going to these workshops and seeing these psychiatrists, them actually telling me to, when I feel a certain way, don't hide it, don't hold it in, because when I hold it in, I become aggressive, and that's always on the field. Like I'll hold all this stuff in, and then all my emotion will come out when I'm playing, or all my emotion will come out in an argument. Whereas the last sort of couple of months, whenever I'm upset or even for me, like admitting that, if I'm going to have a cry here, just cry, man. And then once you do it, you feel that much better about yourself. Or if you need to vent to someone you trust. And once I get all that off my chest, the anger and like the aggression from the situation completely goes. So taking away, getting in these arguments with people over nothing, or these moments on the field of madness where I just see red, like minimizing them to where like I can just be happy and not have to worry about it. Because my life for 27 years, and obviously as a kid you don't count them, but like for as long as I was alive, every day was a battle, like stressful. Like I'd wake up. So I've been diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, anxiety and depression, right? And I hate using the D word because I've had mates that have taken their own life to depression, and I never wanted to be one of the guys that just toss that up without being diagnosed. But actually being diagnosed with it, every day is a battle. And if you don't wake up and face the battle head on, then you can go down a slippery slope really fast. And that's what I was doing. So, I mean, being on like a heavy dose of medication obviously helps, but you got to actually face it front on every single day. Otherwise, you can fall into the trap of it. And that's what I've tried to do. And have my partner there, she makes sure I'm doing that, because obviously it's going to affect her in the long run, but it's obviously going to affect me, and she just wants to see the best version of me.
And just for the people that are in a similar boat, starting to think about, they've been feeling something's not right for sometimes years before they go and act and seek help. What was your early experience? And only share as much as you're comfortable with, but like we're chatting off air, like if you jump on medication, you were saying it like takes a couple months before you start feeling the benefits and then things start to settle down. What was your experience with like taking the medication, how it eventually started to help?
Yeah, so I was always against it. I knew from an early stage that I had something not wrong, but there was something there that didn't allow me to be like everyone else. We'll say normal, right? Like it's
called like ADHD is like a neurodivergent. Your brain's wired differently.
Yeah, and then like for me, I've made mistakes due to what I've had in underlying issues in the past that were never like been on top of. So like I can sit here right now and I can use that as an excuse, but I wasn't brave enough to go get the help. So it is my fault. You know what I mean? It is and it isn't. But anyway, I put myself in situations due to what I had. But for when I found out and I was on the medication, I was against it at the start. And then the lady was just like, just try it for 2 months. If you completely hate it, we'll come back. We'll figure out another plan. I was getting mad headaches taking them because it was rewiring my brain and how I thought. And obviously, like, if I went to go into a different sort of frame of mind after having the medication, it was bringing me back to like a steady state. So the first sort of 4 weeks, my missus would go, how you feeling? My coach would go, how you feeling? The psychiatrist would go, how you feeling? I go, I feel the same. Like, I feel normal. And then after a couple of months, every morning I was waking up, I could have had a bad end to the day before, right? And I'd go to bed, and usually I'd sleep on that angry, fist clenched, wake up, and I'd hate the world to start in the morning. But I can honestly say, like, since I've been on this medication, every morning I've just started even. Yeah, I have my ups and downs. It doesn't stop you from being angry. It doesn't stop you from being sad. It doesn't stop you from being happy. But I feel like I'm very even with who I am in life. Like, if I say me and someone had a falling out during the day, I would never be the guy to walk up half an hour later and go, mate, fuck, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I would always, I've got too much pride for that. There's no way. Now I'm like, I don't know if it's because of the medication or because I've just had a realisation that I have to do that and I don't want to be known as a prick. But both of them combined, if it's an argument with my mum, my partner, my sister, a friend, even an opponent, if I've said something or done something on the field, I'll make the conscious effort to make sure I go up and say sorry, I love you, or I shake their hand, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's been a blessing, man, because I don't want to make this sound any more dramatic than what it needs to, but I was going down a very slippery slope and very fast. Like, I was here as a kid, like in terms of talent, footy. Like, this kid's going to play State of Origin. He's going to play for Australia, England, whatever country he chooses, whatever. To being let go by 2 clubs before the age of 21 and being told by the whole rest of the NRL that you're probably never going to play for us. It's pretty crazy. And then to be 28 now, going through all that, the highs and lows, to know that I can look you in the eye and know how much of a change I've made and this medication's helped and maybe saved my life. Like, if anyone's listening to this podcast or anything that I've spoken about before, please just go see someone. If you're struggling, it could be over anything, something small. You need to go see someone, man, because it will really change your life.
And you mentioned at the beginning you were hesitant to take any medication. Where do you think the hesitancy was coming from?
Well, because I didn't want to admit that there was something wrong. You know what I mean? I didn't want to admit that this tough in brackets footy player needed that sort of help. I'd been to therapy before in the UK. It was all right. Like, I just got sick of sitting there and the lady or the man would write down notes and give me nothing to help me. Like, no, mate, we're going to diagnose you with this. They wouldn't do that. They'd just write it down. Then I'd go the next week and they'd write more stuff down. I was thinking, well, you're not actually helping me. You're just sort of writing in a booklet. I'm just spilling my life to you, crying my eyes out. Yeah. And then when I saw this lady in Newcastle, she wrote 3 things down and she knew straight away, done a few tests, saw a few other people, went back to her and, got diagnosed with the 4 things I mentioned before, which is pretty crazy to think. But without the help of the Knights, in particular, my girlfriend and my family supporting me on this journey, I would never have, 1, reached out to get the help, 2, taking the medication, and 3, being put in this situation that I'm now. And
what is that? How has it changed, like within like the inner sanctum of the rugby league community? Because if we look at the last 10, 15 years, mental health is, finally, particularly for men, there's a lot more people saying it's okay. Like, speak up, talk to your mates about it, reach out, get help. But within like an elite sporting environment, like a really masculine environment, I mean, I don't know, I'm not in there, but it'd be pretty safe to assume that they're a little bit behind the rest of civilization because they're ultra competitive guys doing them like such physical things that they feel like they need to protect themselves. But how has that been like within the rugby league community about mental health stuff? Do you think some players are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable to talk about it? Or
yeah, definitely. Like you're 100% right. Like there's got to be a fine line between what you can and can't say in a rugby league environment because it's high pressured, it's physical, it's violent. So, you have to respect people's mental health. That's first and foremost. But you've also got to create a culture and environment where everyone can be spoke to in a similar manner. Like, if you do something wrong, I don't expect to be tiptoed around because I've got underlying mental health issues, you know what I mean? I've signed up to get paid well, play in a high-pressure environment. So if I don't play well, I don't expect not to be dropped or not to be spoken to in a certain way just because I have these issues. But you can see in the locker room, people are getting around each other a bit more, like, are you all right, mate, and having genuine conversations, which is really cool because when I was coming through 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't have had that conversation. It'd be like, hey, pick your bottom lip up, let's go. Whereas now, not even for me, like I go up to a lot of the young kids now and try and interact with them and always sit with them and just, like, one of the questions I like asking is, like, is everything sweet at home? Like, are you going good? A lot of them look at me and laugh because I generally take the piss about most things. But when you create a deeper relationship with them, they tend to, like, if there is something going on with someone, I can generally tell. I always look at them and go, boys, like, I'm going through what I'm going through. I can kind of tell that something's not up. But, it is becoming a better environment in terms of people are speaking up, people are putting their arms around each other and helping each other, which is good. And I think there's been a fair few high-profile cases of, people taking their own life within NRL and professional sport where the NRL in particular are doing a great job in creating awareness for that, and people like Nico Hines and players like that are coming to the forefront and really speaking about their experiences too, which is, I think, creating a great pathway for younger kids that want to play in the NRL to make sure they're in touch with their feelings and speaking out when they don't feel well.
Well, the Paul Green situation was
crazy.
Massive shock, right? Yeah. No one knew. And then I think it's like a really important conversation, and it does take the first few people that really step out that are like bigger name players and talk about it. It does take a lot of bravery to do that. And like, obviously, like you hear Mace talking about the stories from early in his career. It's completely different environment and culture. But even Denon talking about like him being a young kid coming through at the Broncos. Yeah. They're like, mate, harden up, like completely different. But I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. Yeah. And then if you watch the footy, it's never been tougher.
No,
like hard, obviously there's more rules, but the pits are bigger. The like speed and the contact is.
The players are bigger.
Yes, faster, everything. But I just wanted to ask about that. So obviously, you came through like into the NRL as this kid with like so much talent. What's it like for you to be a senior player and someone with more of a leadership role within the club? How have you embraced that?
Yeah, as I said, I try and spend a fair bit of time with the younger kids. Like I go out of my way to make sure, like, do you want to go get a coffee? Do you want to go get a juice? Whatever it may be, and hang around them at training because, like, one, you don't want to lose touch of your inner child. Like I always want to have that looseness to me and that mucking around, and they're always up for pranking games and doing all the childish shit that they do that I still do at home. Yeah. But obviously when you enter that environment, you don't want to show your cards too early. You don't want to show a young kid that you still got that inner kid within yourself. But they keep me young, man. Like I love just hanging out and listening to the war stories they have from the weekend when they go get on the piss and what else?
Vicariously through there.
What else did you get up to? And pick their brain, but. Nah, they just and trying to like just encourage people to step forward and ask questions about the game. Like when I was younger, I had some great mentors at the Roosters like Mitchell Pearce, James Maloney. They helped me out a heap becoming a half in the NRL. So whenever there's a young kid coming through at the Knights, in particular in a spine position, I love spending time with them and trying to help them. And we've got to create a competitive environment at the Knights now, which is really good too. So everyone goes hard against each other at training, but everyone's willing to listen and learn, which is great. You're
starting to get a bit of a balance between like the young kids coming through and like some mature leaders. Who would you say is part of that like leadership group that's like trying to create the culture needed to go deep?
We've got a pretty good leadership group. We've got a fair few names in there, which is good, which offers up a lot of opinions and ideas, and they do a lot of the stuff around before training, speaking and stuff. So you've obviously got Kalen, both Safidi brothers, Tyson Frizzell, Dane Gagai, Adam Elliott, Leo Thompson, and Jaden Brayley. They're our core sort of leadership group, and they do a lot of work with the coach and leading the way of training and off-field standards and stuff. And then you've got a group under that of boys that have played sort of probably 50 to 100 games that don't have a title, but I suppose the younger kids in Flag and New South Wales Cup are looking to then take the next step to compete with them for a jersey in the NRL squad. So it's good. It creates competition for spots, which is what we've got now, and competition within the group, which is great.
So what's the vibe around the club at the moment? Obviously, you finished last year, won 10 games in a row. You're part of the first half of that last few games. Obviously, broke your leg, broke your ankle again. So you missed out the last couple of games on that. But like, there's obviously the talent is in there, and there's got to be some belief. As I said earlier, only one win out of the top 8 with a pretty decent run home. What's the vibe around the group at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's good, mate. Like obviously We've had a few players in and out. Obviously, Bradman strained his hammy a few times and then played Origin, so we lost him, Gags and Kalen.
He killed it in Origin.
Yeah, he's such a beast, man. Bradman's 20. Is he 23?
I think he might have even been 22. Something. I was shocked when they were talking about his age during Origin. I'm like, and the size of him, and
he's got more tattoos than his age, man. It's crazy. I call him Cyclops, bro. Like he's just built like we call him Brick.
Yeah,
he's literally built like a square. There's not 1 ounce of fat on him.
He'd be one of the last people if I had to like try and tackle someone one-on-one. He'd be one of the last.
Or fight. He can hold his hands up to big Braddy, and he'll let you know. But yeah, so we lost him, Gags, and KP to Origin, and we played a red hot Manly side, which sort of smacked us in the mouth at Brookie, and then they come back and we played a Broncos side that was desperate, and we got smacked in the mouth again. So I mean, we're playing Penrith this week, which is a great test for us. But the vibe's good, eh? Like I mean, we were missing Kalen for I think it's 8 weeks, and we won 5 of 8 with 2 different young fullbacks. So I mean, what we have taken out of this year is that we've got young kids that are ready to step up and fill the void. I suppose before, if KP was out and they made it a big deal, the media again, it's the end of the world. Knights are gone. They're shot. They're a one player team. But we went on to win 5 of 8 without him, which I mean, we're a way better footy side with Kalen in it. I'm not for 1 minute saying that we're better without him. We're 10 times the team.
I think you surprised a lot of people how good you did throughout that period.
Yeah, we surprised a lot of people besides ourselves. I think these 2 young kids, Davey Armstrong and Fletcher Sharp, we've watched for the last 2 years develop and compete for the next man up sort of spot in that team, and they both killed it. So I mean, creating the competition, creating kids coming through in your club to fill the void of people like Kalen when they're gone. They're never going to be Kalen, but they can do a more than good job to make sure that we keep winning is what we've taken out of this year. And we haven't given hope on playing finals. We're still right there, as you said. We're 1 win away from being in the top 8. We've got a nice run home in terms of like we've got 4 games back at McDonald Jones, which is always a hard place for people to come play. So, yeah, we're looking forward to the back end and hopefully going on a similar run to last year.
And like speaking of the media, you'd think Knights being out of Sydney, you would get less, but because you're like that one team town, like remember like that poor David Armstrong like was in the media. So I'm like, this kid's played like a handful of first grade games and they're going after him all this shit. I'm like, if I could kind of understand the kid going over to the Super League and getting himself out of that situation.
Yeah, well, and obviously there was a backlog of fullbacks too. So obviously I can't speak on behalf of him, but I feel like he just wanted to get them reps as a first team fullback and experience something different. He'll be able to go experience the world. He's a good mate of mine, and I sort of have been writing him a to-do list on what to go see, what to pack. Yeah, I think he was going to take his whole wardrobe. I said, "You're not going to live there forever, you madman. You're going to come back." But he'll go over there and play some good footy, and he'll come back to the NRL a far better player than what he is now, which is already super impressive. So
you've spoken pretty warmly and positively about like Adam O'Brien and how he's put his arm around you and his relationships with the boys. How's he different from some of the other coaches that you've worked with throughout your career?
Yeah, well, at the start, I felt like I probably wasn't coachable. I probably thought I knew everything, and I was walking into an environment at the Roosters. They just won a comp, and I was getting coached by arguably one of the top 3 greatest coaches of all time. If you look at his record, Robbo, and I probably didn't spend enough time with him or show the respect that was needed, and then obviously went on to Manly and had a few incidents there. So I was probably a little bit uncoachable and gave myself a tag of being someone that's probably not great for, one, the environment, but for a rookie head coach, especially like Baz, to take on. And then I went over to Super League and had such a great relationship with Ian Watson, my first coach at Salford, and then Adrian Lamb at Wigan. Like, I've got great relationships with them still. And then come back to the Tigers and I met Madge, and he's one of my better mates. Like, he always makes sure that I'm all right, my family's all right. And when he got sacked, and I probably shouldn't have and probably got told not to, but I wanted to publicly support him as a mate, and I did that, and I fell on my sword for that, but I don't regret that one bit. You know, like, the one thing that I've always been in my life, and there hasn't been too many people that I've had to do this for, but if you're severely loyal to me, I'll be that back to you, and I'll do anything, and I cost myself another club.
To your detriment at times,
yeah,
right?
To my detriment, man, and I don't regret that one bit. Yeah, it looks bad on the resume for me, and people can make whatever they want of that, but if someone's had my back and stuck their nose out for me, I'm going to do that for you tenfold. And Adzi O'Brien's just pretty much like a clone of Madge for me in terms of, like, he's a mate, but he's someone that him and his partner Sharon helped push me towards getting some help as well. So the footy stuff's not always ideal, and we clash about what position I'm going to play, where I'm going to play on the weekend, or whatever it may be at training. But one thing that I can never, ever negotiate is his care for me as a person, and that's why I'm so public in my support of him. You know, footy's just a small part of our life that we do together, but the way that he's sort of just made me become a better person away from football is something that I'll never be able to thank him enough for. So that's why the relationship's what it is.
I think as well, like with any sort of relationship, as long as you have the respect there, like, and you're two mature adults, and like, you know, you have the ability to raise your own, like, your true thoughts and be honest about certain things. But at the end of the day, it's left at that. And at a human level, you have the respect and care for each other to, once you might, have a debate about a certain thing, but then after that, beyond that, shake hands and you're all sweet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, we've don't get me wrong, we're both pretty fiery customers, and we've had to shut the door a few times and chat it out about certain things. But at the end of the day, we always stand up, give each other a hug, see you tomorrow, see you on the field. It's never bad blood. I've got a lot of time and respect for him, and care for what he's done for me in my life. So it's good. And
you mentioned playing under Robbo, obviously, like your first club coming through, definitely a legend of the game, one of the best coaches ever to do it.
Yep.
Like, they throw around tags, attitude problem. But for you, attitude, I don't take that as like lazy. It's like, what was just don't like being told what to do. And like, obviously young age, and I can relate, stubborn, ADHD, you don't like being told what to do. If you don't agree with something, you have a hard time, this is just me, you have a hard time just sucking it up and going ahead if you really don't agree with it. Was that something similar to you?
Yeah, and mate, I'd achieved nothing. I hadn't even played a game yet.
Yeah.
I would always just voice my frustrations or opinions, and at the time when I got let go, I was like, well, isn't this an environment where we all get an opinion? But at the same time, my opinion was probably always wrong too. I'm sitting in a room full of blokes that have won comps, won World Cups, won Origin Series, played 200 plus games for the club. A coach has just come off winning a comp, and I'm sitting there adding my 2 cents. It's kind of like, mate, you gotta earn your stripes, and I still believe that to this day. Like, you do have to earn your stripes. Everyone's entitled to an opinion for sure, and everyone has to be comfortable with speaking, but there also is time and place. I do believe in you have to earn your stripes to be at a certain level of what's the word I'm trying to say here? I want to make it clear that everyone can speak and everyone's opinion is valued, but some hold a little bit more weight than others just pure to the fact of how long they've been around, what they've achieved in the game. And I feel like that's important to have. And I didn't have that one little bit at the Roosters. And looking back on that, I get tossed the attitude around all the time, but it's definitely not to do with football. I love the game as much as anyone, probably more than anyone, man. I live and breathe it, and all I want to do is play and train. So, I mean, mine was more to do with stubbornness and listening and taking advice on board and stuff like that. That was the attitude thing, not so much the footy thing. I
feel like as well, if they could understand, and obviously only recently you got diagnosed with the ADHD stuff. Yeah. I bet you there's tons of players that are undiagnosed ADHD, but an understanding of that, of like, the best coaches are like the best like people managers, right? You look at Wayne Bennett and just like every player that plays for him loves him. But I'm a Doggies fan, right? I've always been a Doggies fan, and I heard an interview with Ciro talking about what they look for with, obviously you compare the Bulldogs this year to last year, it's like a completely different team. And one of the things that I found interesting, I've never heard a coach or a team speak about before, is one of the questions they ask the players is like, do you watch all the other games? Like, do you love footy like as a fan as well as just like a player?
Yeah, right.
And if they weren't watching games on their own and actually passionate about NRL as a fan, he's like, that's not the type of player we're looking for.
Yeah,
so
right.
you being so like a footy nerd in a certain way, do you feel like that's helped you on the field and being able to, you don't have to write 10 notes, you kind of see it once you do it, you feel it, and you can go out there and not overcomplicate things for yourself?
Yes and no. Sometimes I do overcomplicate it because I feel like I've seen this movie before, and then like if I'm watching a shape unfold in front of me and I'm defending it, sometimes I'm too smart for my own good, and I'm like, all right, well, they did this last time, so I'm going to hedge my bets and go the other way, and then they get me on the play that I originally thought. So sometimes you can overcomplicate it, and sometimes you can overthink the whole thing. Like I could watch a game and watch Reece Walsh run this one shape a million times, and then I thought it was coming against us, and they went a different shape with the centre led instead of the back row, and he made a 60-metre line break, and I'm like, well, maybe I did overthink that, you know what I mean? So it can work both ways, but I think you've got to have a balance in your team of people that love the game like I do, and you've also got to have some characters that don't love it as much because they even you out. Like you bring them up with the intensity of like loving the game, and like it brings them up a little bit. They also like equalise you by like, mate, everything's all right. Like relax. There's more to life than footy. So that's what some of these younger fellas have taught me. Hey, there's a bit more to life than footy. Maybe not going to get on the piss and stuff. That's probably not my go, especially with how I can go like that. A bit of a firecracker, but in terms of just enjoying life, I think these younger kids sort of have brought that into for me.
Also, just, I've never played any sort of elite footy, but just watching Reece Walsh, it's like knowing what he's going to do is one thing, but the speed on him, it's like, fuck, what can you do? Like, you give him half a metre and he's gone.
Especially when you run like me, fucking hell. It's like someone running the 100 at the Olympics and someone running 100 at the local park. That's what it's like. But, you see his like long hair just flow straight past you and you think,
fuck
this.
Yeah. So what is the environment that you feel like, looking back, you've played close to 200 first grade games across NRL and Super League. What's the sort of environment or headspace that gets the best out of Jackson Hastings?
I like being coached hard. I like being tested and pushed at training. Like if I make a mistake, I want to know about it. I don't mind being called out in front of the group. And when I say called out, it's not like pointing at you like you did this wrong. I don't mind a clip of me being shown as an example. There is people that you got to be careful with, like because everyone takes criticism differently. Everyone takes positive news differently. Like I do, I take it like it's awkward for me. But being, being used as an example or something what not to do, I actually don't mind. I'm pretty comfortable with stuff like that. So being coached hard's one. I like having an environment where like you joke around in the change rooms, but when you train, it's like time, like we're training. I've always been pretty serious with stuff like that. I always used to get called the zero guy and like the coach's pet and that because I love training hard, and I always feel like some of the messiest sessions where the ball hits a deck and you make a defensive error are some of the best sessions because you're actually pushing the line that far that you're making mistakes. I feel like the sessions where it all just flows and everything's easy, you can get into a false sense of security when it comes to game time. So I actually like I don't want the session to look like shit. I don't want there to be 100 drop balls, but I actually don't mind if like we're trying something and people are testing their skill at a high level and the ball hits the ground. I feel like that's pretty cool, and just someone that allows me to be myself to a point. You don't want to let me push the red line too far, but if they let me toe the line and nudge it a little bit, I feel like they get the best out of me for sure.
I think that's super interesting as well. And like you hear it all the time from coaches, and it's probably the situation you've explained where a team that might have been favourites going in get blown out of the water, lose by 20, 30 points. And like, did you see it coming? Honestly, no. Yeah. So you can get into those false senses of security when that's happening now. Yeah. You mentioned something that's interesting, like you got to be careful the way you say things to certain people because the way people take criticism is different. You've been around the game at the highest level for 10 years now. Yeah. Have you seen a change even in the last 10 years about how coaches speak to players?
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be one sort of brush fits everyone. Like you get painted the same in a way. Like you just I used to walk into a room, and we all used to walk into a room, and like the clips are coded on like big screen. Yeah, and you can read the notes that the coaches wrote. So obviously when the footage comes up, there's a footage on a huge screen, and it's like a little note at the top to remind them of what clip it is. It's like Jackson Hastings, poor defensive read, Jackson Hastings, bad carry, Jackson Hastings, bad pass. So you'd always want to be first in there and get your seat.
It out. Yeah.
Like, where am I? Oh, fuck, there's 10 of me. or whatever it is. But now it's a bit more like, it's not so much the individual. It's like, right, guys, this is Jackson, you're making a poor read here, but this isn't you. It's just a jersey. So like it's made clear that it's not a personal attack. And I think that's just more from a standpoint of like the mental health staff and everyone being treated the same, which I kind of like. I mean, it's never ever personal to anyone, but some people are raised different. Some people are from different backgrounds, beliefs. Like treating everyone the same isn't the way to go now. You got to make sure you respect people for who they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like doing that is the safest way to make sure everyone's all right.
For sure. And I think if I think about my own personal life and experience, like I think sometimes criticism can be a really powerful motivator and can be good. But as a general rule, most people play better in a situation where they're, where their confidence is being built up, especially the younger generation coming through. I think there's a time and a place to be hard, both on yourself and on someone to make someone realize. But then I think 90% of the time you've got to be building people up to get the best out of them. And it's the same in business when you've got a team and you work on multiple projects. Sometimes someone makes a mistake and it might be a really obvious thing to you. And it's like if your first instinct is to be like, you fucking idiot. But obviously if you did that, you're going to get way worse results out of it anyway. Different in an elite sporting environment, but I think like as coaches get better, like coaches almost have to be like psychologists in certain ways and know how to like manage the energy and the vibe of the group and like 30 different players, all completely different backgrounds, styles, the way you learn. You say you're a visual person, someone might be written, someone might need to walk through it. Completely different.
Well, it's like for me as well. Like I used to be the type of kid coming up, and this is where like a lot of the stuff would come in, right? So I'd throw a mad ball, for example, and they'd drop it. And my first instinct as like a kid from probably even like 13 to 18 was like, catch the fucking ball. Yeah. Or what are you doing? Like it was always projected on them. As I've got older and I've learned that like I need my props to go forward. Like I need them. I need my centers to respect me because I need to zing them the ball and they make me look good. I need my back rowers to trust me that I'm going to cop a whack from. So if I throw a great ball to Bradman just for the sake of argument and he drops it, my first instinct is to go up and go, it's all right, we'll get him next time, or speak positively. And it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're filthy in terms of like, you could be getting beat by 40 and the chat is like, man, come on. But it's never, for me now, it's never like, catch the fucking ball or effing do this or do that. It's always, I'm always conscious of who I'm speaking to and how I'm speaking to them, and you don't always get it right. Yeah. There might be people watching this right now.
The heat of battle.
He doesn't talk to me like that. He's lying. But I do my best to try and make sure that I'm making the people around me feel good because I need them to be successful. And
that'll be a part of your growth as a leader, as a player, as one of the senior people. Now, speaking about that, that's probably something that's happened quite consciously. You being like when you're 21, someone fucks up, there's a blow to career try, it's easy to blow up. But like, how have you like? Talking about making mistakes and learning from them, do you feel like you've got better at doing that the older you've got?
I had to. Otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you as a professional rugby league player. No one would have touched me. I would have had no trust from any player, coach or person really. Like if I kept on the same trajectory of spraying everyone, also getting involved in fights, arguments, not playing well, then no one's going to want to touch me. So like, going back to the plane story right at the start of the whole podcast, like that was part of what I wanted to do. Instead of me shifting blame or looking for a reason to spray someone, reverse that. Take the blame on yourself and uplift people. And as I said, like there might be a few people that laugh and watch this in the heat of the battle and go, he's lying. But I've made a huge conscious effort and had people around me try and help me definitely become better at that. As a half, or even like a lock, a hooker, a fullback, a spine member these days, you have to uplift everyone around you because guess what? If your props look at you and go, well, he talks to me like shit and doesn't want to go forward, one, you're going to be kicking on the back foot because everyone stuff you and you're going to look like shit and you aren't going to win games. So you need the people around you to respect you as a spine player and ultimately you got to show them respect to get respect. So that was what I looked at.
And because in the heat of battle, it can be difficult to separate yourself from the emotion because think of ADHD, it comes that quick and that fast. And it's like, it's before your like conscious brain can react, right? But when you've done it enough times, you realize the pattern. It's like you can want to express an emotion and you do feel emotions quite strongly with ADHD, but like you've just explained it exactly. Why am I feeling this emotion? Because it's a negative thing for the team. I want to win. I'm super competitive. That's frustrating. But why does that make you feel that a negative emotion? Because you want to win and do good. Yeah. You expressing that emotion is going to do the opposite and it's going to like double down and double negative.
And the thing that like if I want to coach one day, I would never want to coach that out of a player. But going through what I've been through, I'd want them to actually sit down with someone and learn how to be themselves, be ultra competitive, be fiery, but do that in a way that inspires your teammates, not actually project that upon your teammates. So I could be the most fiery bloke in the world, mate. I was getting in push and shoves with all sorts of people at the start of the year that would punch the shit out of me. But that was me trying to actually uplift my teammates. Like, come on, we're going to them here. Whereas before, as a kid, I would do that, but I would also go, catch the effing ball, do this. So I'm doing all that, thinking I'm firing them up. Whereas really, if I'm getting in this push and shove after talking to someone like shit, they're just going to go, you're on your own, brother. You're on your own. Whereas now, like, I'd expect and hope that I'll show people enough time and care and respect that if that does happen, they've got my back. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah, to the big boys out there. That same thing, like, to lay it back to Doggy's example again, like, the Dogs have been getting into Reed Marnie, obviously the big blue with Jack Hetherington, a bit of fun after when he was sent off. He's a mad case as well, obviously played for Doggies for a little bit. Yeah. And it's like from the outside, Reed would be one of the players you fucking can't stand when you're playing against him, but when he's in your team, you love him, right? And the Bulldogs have been soft for 5, 6, 7 years. It's been like 8 years since we played finals. And like they've been saying it since last year, and last year didn't get much of an improvement. And the media obviously has been like taking like Josh Reynolds and Mick Ennis is taking on like their thing, but it's like, if you let your team get pushed around, like you be soft and so you need sometimes players to stand up and take a stand and then like build it from that, you know?
The thing with Reed, right? Like I actually know Reed a little bit. We've got the same manager. Yeah. And I've always respected how he plays, like for his size and stature.
I love him, obviously.
Yeah, the way he goes after it. And at the start of the year, even I was like, this little but he come out and actually explained what he was trying to do, and it was pretty much what you just said. And I actually gained a little bit of respect for the fact that he was trying to not get pushed over, not get walked over, and also encourage his teammates and like fire them up. And to be fair, if you hate it, that's on you because they're in the top 4 at the moment and it's working for them, and he's arguably playing his best footy. So I mean, 100%. They took the captaincy off him. I think that sat really well with him, and he's allowed to go out there and express himself and how he wants to play. So if you don't like Reed and what he's doing, I suppose that's on you because he's sitting pretty in the top 4 and he's like, playing good footy.
All the old boys like Gordon Tallis or whatever, they say like, oh, you did that back in the day, you get your head knocked. It's a different game, man. Like
that's the one line I can't cop back in the day because like it's different. You can't fight and not get sent off. You push someone these days and you get 10 in the bin. Like so, yeah. Gordy was tough as nails. Yeah. One of the best back rows of all time, Queensland, Australian great. But you can't do what you did anymore. You can't do back in the day no more. So, yeah, Reed knows he's not going to get punched, or I know I'm not going to get punched, or any player knows they're not going to get punched. But that's not what they're doing it for. They're not actually doing. I don't think Reed's running in there to get into a punch on. No. I think he's getting in there to unsettle the opponent. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, it's worked. So 100%. Fair play to him.
I want to talk about a little bit more in detail some of the stuff that happened when you went over to the Super League because. I knew you went over there and I knew you won Man of Steel, but I didn't realise some of the details of what happened until I was doing my research. But so did you go over like halfway through a season? I know back end of a season, like Salford were like close to relegation. You won like 8 or 9 games in a row. You didn't lose a game when you were playing. Won in like the playoffs to survive the drop. Talk to me about that experience.
So long story short, whatever happened at Manly happened. I'm sure that you would have heard about it or researched it or whatever. Got into a falling out in a hotel room, which I'm not proud of. Anyway, that happened. I literally got told that I would never play for the club again and that I'd have to train full-time. Part-time. So essentially I got paid what I was on, but I'd trade 3 days a week out at Blacktown from 5 to 7 p.m. So for the whole rest of the day, I used to sit on my ass.
A lot of time to stew.
Yeah, man, and I was getting death threats. I was getting hammered. Obviously had a fallout with the captain, arguably one of the greatest players of all time in Daly. So I was doing that, and then my manager come to me before the deadline in Super League. I think I played maybe 7 or 8 games for Blacktown, maybe a little bit more. And he goes, I've got an opportunity overseas. My dogs were 2 years old at the time, right? And I started crying on the phone. I said, I'm not leaving my dogs. There's no way. And he goes, well, mate, with all due respect, you either leave your dogs for a couple of years, go over there and put your footy first, or you're going to have to start looking for a job. And I was like, fuck, put it into perspective. Spoke to my mum at the time, my family. My mum ended up taking my dogs on for me, who she still has them to this day. They've got such a rapport and love her so much. But within a week, I was like, you know what, I have to go before this deadline. I have to go save my career, my life. Everything I wanted was in this one moment. So anyway, signed for Salford. Never even heard of Salford. Didn't know it was the city of Manchester. Had no idea where it was. I knew one player, Junior Sau. He played for the Storm. When I was a young fella, he also played for the Knights. So he's the only guy I knew. Went over there, packed all my bags. They had 10 weeks left. They had 8 weeks left, 1 regular season game, and then they had a thing called the Super 8s, which was the bottom 4 of Super League and the top 4 of the Championship would compete, and the lowest ranked Super League side after that would go down, and the highest ranked Championship side would go up. And Salford were odds on to go down. So anyway, I didn't realise that till I got there. So I've walked into this high pressure situation. First game, get off the plane on the Wednesday, go to train and do a walkthrough in the captain's run, and then play the Friday against Leeds Rhinos. So obviously I knew who Leeds Rhinos were, and they were coached at the time by the great Kev Sinfield. And I remember running out, warming up. The fans are screaming my name. We've got Jackson Hastings. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is crazy.
How good are the atmosphere over
best
there?
Best ever. The Poms are the best, man.
Yeah.
So I've been at this club for 48 hours. They're singing a song about me. They love me. There's my numbers on flags, all sorts of shit. Go out there. First touch, I drop it. I'm thinking, mate, whatever, nothing else can go wrong. I drop it, they score. Behind the line, the boys are going, it's all right, lad. It's all right, lad. Anyway,
was there any other Aussies in the team? Or
yeah, there was Robert Louis, Junior Sow, Aussies. My mate Joey Lussick come over the week after I'd got there.
Cool.
So anyway,
is Joey Lussick that's at Para now?
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, I'm behind the try line. I'm shitting myself. These fans are still chanting my name, whatever. We weren't expected to win. I go on to have one of the best 20 minutes of football I've ever played. Next touch, line break, try assist. Next touch, try. Next touch, try assist. Then I tweak my hammy. So I go off. We're winning. We might be winning 20 to 10 maybe, and then Robert Louis puts a clinic on. We end up winning like 34-14. Go in the sheds, have a beer, get on the piss with the lads. Like, it's the best time ever. Then when we come to train on Monday, I didn't realise we're in this thing called the Super 8s, and then what I just explained to you was all happening. So everything becomes so real and so serious. So if you're the Super League side and you drop, your contracts become null and void. So you're pretty much like a free agent.
Wow.
So everyone at the club loses their job, and you lose your contract. So you could be signed for 6 years, gone. So I was playing for people's like livelihoods here, and I was like, right, I need to really lock in and make sure this is fucking the most serious 8 weeks of my life. And yeah, as you said, didn't lose a game I played. I actually got suspended for 2 of the weeks for like a pretty bad high tackle. Like, I'll show you after this. I reckon if I'd done it now, I would get like 8 weeks. It's pretty bad. Knocked a guy out called Gaz O'Brien. Last tackle of the whole game. Me, hothead, ADHD, saw red, got him. We lost the next 2, so we were in like a tedious position. Then we went on and we went win, and yeah, we got to safety, and then I had a contract negotiation. Wigan come in to sign me the next year. I ended up saying no to Wigan, which is a massive thing. They're a huge club. I ended up signing for them the year after, but I said no to them because I wanted to be loyal, fiercely loyal to the people that really put their arm around me and cared about me. And then rolling into the 2019 season, we were odds-on favourites. So we were a bigger underdog than when Leicester won the Premier League to win the comp. Wow. So we were that low to win the Wooden Spoon or to get relegated. We ended up breaking every record in the club. I think it was most points scored in a year, most away wins, most wins at home, record attendance, whatever it was. We ended up finishing 3rd, club's highest finish. We ended up going on to make the grand final, which was like would have been unbelievable. There was not 80,000. There was probably 65 to 70,000 people at Old Trafford where Manchester United play. And we were the local team. So we're the original Red Devils, Salford Red Devils, Manchester are the Red Devils. So like it was a home game for us. So we went from having 3,000 at the AJ Bell to we sold like 15,000 tickets. So everyone come out of the woodworks. We ultimately got beat, but I went on to win Man of Steel that year, Team of the Year, Salford Player of the Year, and then played 4 tests for Great Britain. So
pretty surreal.
It was crazy. So to go from 2018 getting sacked, I was playing at a local park in front of literally 30 people on a Sunday, to playing at 80,000 seat stadium where Manchester United play, just a kid from Marilla down the road here, to then go play test matches at Eden Park against New Zealand for Great Britain and represent like my heritage. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It gives me goosebumps now to think that like I was able to turn my life around within 9 months. It's crazy.
And I think I was looking at some stats. You had like 14 more try assists than the second person in the year. So pretty special, like personal year as well.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Like there was a guy called Johnny Lomax who still plays. He plays St Helens. He was the 5'8". When I went over there, him and George Williams were the benchmark in terms of English halves, and like I wanted to play for England and Great Britain. So like every time I played, I would like compare myself to them, and then I just went on this hot streak of games where like everything I touched turned to gold. I think it was like, I had 10 tries, 36 or 38 assists. And then I I had the most run meters in the whole comp for a half, which was pretty good.
That's nuts.
Considering I got told before I left I don't run the ball enough. So that was always in the back of my mind. And I still get in a bit of trouble with that at the moment where, like, I'll get tackled on fourth tackle. I'm like, bro, you're the halfback. You need to kick on last. So, I mean, getting the balance right in my game still at 28 is what I'm searching for. But, yeah, I had a pretty good year, man. It's one of the – if you look at it statistically, it'd be up there with one of the best years. So, I'm pretty proud of that.
And so the move to Wigan, obviously, like, you could have went the year earlier. You wanted to kind of pay it back to the people that took the bet on you and gave you the opportunity. How did that come about? And obviously, it's like one of the big – like, obviously, from Australia, they're one of the clubs, that, you know, them and St. Helens that you, like, look at, and Leeds, I guess. They're the big clubs that we all know over here.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, well, George Williams signed at Canberra. I was off contract at Salford, and there was still no offers to go home, even though I'd done what I'd done.
Off the back of Man of Steel.
So, Man of Steel, Great Britain, Grand Final, Team of the Year. That's how big a hole I was in terms of my reputation back in Australia. I think people look at me sometimes and go, oh, look at him cry wolf. Like, it's not that bad. But, bro, it was really fucking bad, eh? Like, to the point where I never thought I'd ever play in the NRL again. And that was a real possibility at 22 years old, which is crazy to think, you know what I mean? So, there was no offers to come back, and I was like, what's the best chance for me to win a grand final, to play the best football with the best players, and also give myself a chance to come home if I deserve it? And that was to go to Wigan and play with some of the best players over in England. And I was lucky enough to play with blokes like Tommy Luluwai, Sean O'Loughlin, Liam Farrell, who are champions of the English game. And we ended up winning the minor premiership my first year there. I think it was the first time Wigan had won the league lead, as they call it there, in 10 years, which was pretty cool to be a part of that. And then we got beat. I don't know if you've ever seen the game we got beat in. So we played in the COVID grand final, no one in the grandstand. It was 8-8. And
Is that the one with the controversy?
They had the field goal from 40 out. It hit the post. The dead ball line, the ball was running dead. Bevan went to shield it, and it like stepped him. And then the centre come flying through and put it down after the siren man. So, yeah, that was hard to take. And then the following year, I was like, well, this is our year. We signed John Bateman. We had the same sort of team. I was playing good footy. We had good combinations. We won our first, 9 or 10 games in a row. Then Bevan French tore his hammy, Jay Field tore his hammy, Tommy Luluwai tore his hammy, Zach Hardacre got suspended for 8 weeks. Someone else got suspended for 8 weeks. I ended up at fullback, and then we lost our next 8. We sort of tripped our way into the semis. Still thought we had a good chance, and then got beaten. 8 weeks before that happened, I'd signed with the Tigers, and Madge was willing to take a chance. And we had good relationships with people at Wigan. He actually coached Wigan to a few premierships when he was over in the Super League, so it all kind of intertwined nicely for me to come home, and that's how I come back.
What would you say is the main difference between Super League and NRL?
So Blake spoke about this on your podcast, how he said it was tougher, not the week to week, the actual physicality.
Physicality, right?
It is, man.
And look at all these 8 week suspensions. They play pretty aggressively.
Bro, you got to remember, so the first 6 weeks of the year, it is pissing down rain, like ankle deep water sometimes. So you can't sidestep.
Yeah.
You can't throw long passes. You're literally playing in between the scrum lines. These big English fellas just come out the line and twatting you. And don't get me wrong, if the game was played like that in the same conditions here in Australia, I'd be saying the exact same thing. It's no disrespect to anyone that plays in the NRL. They're hard as nails. The props here are athletically different.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Payne Haas, how do you stop him?
Yeah, exactly. Tino. People like that are unbelievable. Incredible players and athletes and tough as nails. But the conditions don't allow you to be fancy over there until it gets to the summertime. So what Blake's saying is spot on. Week to week grind, NRL dominates it by far. The talent pool in England isn't big enough to compare to the Super League. Sorry, to the NRL. But in terms of these one-off games, or I reckon like a Wigan, a Saints, a Leeds, like a side like that would compete in the NRL, but just a lack of depth would bite them in the backside. You've seen the World Cup Challenge, like Wigan and Saints.
How do they win so frequently?
Well, when you play in England, like Penrith played a weird style this year where it's like they didn't want to kick for the in-goal because they were worried about it running dead.
It's a shorter in-goal.
Yeah, it's short in-goals, it's raining. So I feel like they changed the way they played. The St. Helens one in Penrith as well, like the last year, it was pissing down rain as well. So it played into their favour, but you can't take nothing away from those two sides. We're gonna a class and got some fantastic players that could come over to the NRL and really make a name for himself, and St. Helens were the same before. So my way of looking at it is not to disrespect Penrith, but to really uplift and respect the English players. Like I'm biased. Like I've obviously played for Great Britain. I've played with the players that are playing at these clubs, and I'm a Super League fanatic and I want to lift that game up and eventually get it to where the NRL is, which is a long way away. But people instantly bag the Super League, and then when they come and they beat Penrith, they want to bag Penrith. It's like, well, you can't have your food and eat it. You need to like actually uplift one of them. You know what I mean?
Did you get into like the Premier League or anything when you were over there?
I tried to. So me and Joey Lussick drew Manchester City and Manchester United out of a hat, and we both ended up deciding that we're going to have to pick the team that wins. We had no idea about who was who or what players. So we started smashing FIFA, and then we would go to a fair few United and City games, which was pretty cool. We lived like in the middle of Manchester, so the access that we had was sick, bro.
I went over. I'm a Tottenham fan. I went over last year. I was in the UK and Europe, and I went to a game. And it's like you hear him singing on TV the whole time, but when you're there experiencing it, it's like the whole time they're fucking singing. It's like nothing else, man. I wish it was like that in Australia. I wish it was like that here.
So the fans, in terms of numbers at every game here, are bit bigger and better. Obviously, fan bases are way bigger here. Members, people, NRL's like...
There's more money in the game.
Well, NRL's the biggest sport in Australia, in my opinion. You know what I mean? In terms of fans and stuff like that coming. Obviously, the AFL in Melbourne get 80,000 a game, so that argument might be null and void for me there. But in terms of England, they can get 7,000 to a game, and it sounds like 40,000 because the stadium, they don't shut up, bro.
Yeah.
And like having like a cultural background of being English and like wanting to learn about like my nan and my mum and like where they're from, and I had cousins over there that I'd met that like I'd never even knew existed. So like I really bought into the cultural side of it too, and it's crazy. Where you're from and where you're born is who you go for. And
fanatical, right?
And if you're not born and your dad hasn't gone for him, then you've gone rogue picking your team, you know what I mean? So it's so cultural as well, which is what I love. It causes a lot of violence, but you got to love it at the same time, you know what I mean?
So coming back here, obviously, like having that conversation with Madge, him like being like, nah, you know, I see the value you can add. What did you at that point, realizing yourself, like what did you learn as a footy player over those few years over there in the Super League? Like what did you feel like you were coming back better than when you left?
I probably just learned what I was good at, what works for me as a player. Running the footy is a big part of my game. I suppose when I was at the Roosters, I was pretty nervous to not fuck up, and I wanted to give people like Sonny Bill, Anthony Minicello, Mitchell Pearce, James Maloney, Jake Friend, Boyd Cordner, Aidan Guerrero. Like the list can go on and on and on. Jared Rea-Hargraves.
Crazy generation.
Michael Jennings, Michael Tupou, Roger Tavasa-Sheck. Like I could go on with the superstars in that team. Like I just wanted to give them the ball, get out the way, win the game, and not get bagged by anyone for doing anything wrong. So I became a shell of myself of what made me such a great junior player. Then I went to Manly and I wasn't really playing. I was kind of in and out. When I'd play, I'd always play hooker. I never really got a crack in the halves. So when I went to England, I just wanted to run the ball, set up tries, defend well, and be a good teammate. And that's all I wanted to bring back to the NRL. And have I got it right every single time since being back? No, but I feel like I know what I'm good at. I know what I bring to the table, and I know that I'll always put the team first. So they're the things that I brought back. But Madge just saw the competitor in me and wanted to really like buy into that. Like he wanted me to be competitive at training and maybe ruffle a few feathers. There was a couple of times where we'd have a field session and he'd grab me before it and he's like, I need you to ruffle a few feathers today. Like I want to get the session going. And then he goes, I'll let you know when. So I'm just going through the motions, and then he'd sort of give me a look or like a nod, and I wouldn't do nothing crazy, but I might sledge someone or I might hold someone's jersey for a bit longer where they'd knock my arm down and like spice the session up a bit. So I was kind of like his crash test dummy, and although it didn't end well for either of us there, the relationship I got out of that with him is something that I'll cherish forever.
What was the main takeaway? It was just one season at the Tigers, What was the main takeaway from that year there?
You know what? Like I've got so much love and respect for the Tigers fans. Like you don't realise how many fans there are of the Tigers until you play for them. Like their memberships and stuff go through the roof, but they're only a couple of players away from being really successful. Even like last night, I know the scoreboard blew out, but I mean, like they were right in the game for a long period of time until Olam got sent off. They were right in the contest, and obviously having Taruva go there next year, Luai go there next year. I love the look of Galvin. I think he's a great player. Yeah. I like the Fonu brothers, Dream Buller at the back. Appy's obviously playing fantastic. I think they've got the nucleus of a side to go forward, and I think their CEO, Shane Richardson, come out and said they've got a whole lot of money to spend too. Yeah. So I don't think it's just about buying a heap of players. It's about buying the right players and winners, and obviously Taruva and Luai have been part of winning culture for so long. I think Jerome's the fastest player to 100 wins in the NRL.
Exactly, yeah. So that's that.
And he's proven himself. Like, he's taken Samoa to a World Cup final.
Yeah.
He's won Origin Series. He's won Grand Finals. He's been the man without Nathan. So I think they're heading in the right direction. And as a guy that's played for the club, I'd love to see him play finals. I would have loved to have been a part of that. But if I'm not going to be there, you definitely want to see him be successful.
Yeah, I've got a real big soft spot for my Tigers. Like, that's the team my mum goes for.
Oh, right,
that was my local area, so any rep sides or presentations always West. So I think they've been down for even longer time than Bulldogs,
12
right?
years, I think it is.
But the good thing in terms of like what you were just talking about, the positive signs, and I think what they're doing with moving on players and bringing in new ones, which is, it's always shit go, you know, because people want to, like, whenever a player's coming up, they always try and guilt the player into being loyal to a club. But when it's the other way around, the clubs are fucking savage. But the good signs is, like, a lot of their best players have been all the young kids this year.
Yeah. Yeah, Galvin for me, like, I don't know if he'll end up at 5'8", because he's going to fill out. He's going to be a big kid.
He's pretty tall already.
Like, he might end up in the back row. He probably doesn't want to hear that. And I might even get a message off you saying, don't push that. I don't want to make 50 tackles a week. But, like, just even last night, some of his touches, they just ooze class. Like, you look at some halves and they come in and they're a bit like me. Like, I'd have moments of that, but I'd have a lot more moments of just sitting back and letting people. He just goes to the game, and that's what I like about him. He's not scared to make a mistake. He just attacks the game, and obviously his coach, Benji Marshall, he did that for a living. He went after it. So I think he's being coached by the right guy to get the best out of him. But I love Buller too, like the way he just, whenever the ball bounces, he's there. If there's half a chance to take, he takes it. So they got the nucleus of a good crop of kids coming through for sure.
I'd love to see the Tigers play finals footy. And I think if you look back to the last time they were successful, 2005, they're starting to build a bit of an exciting team to play in like a similar style. Obviously, the game's changed a lot since then, but there's a lot of good things there. I'd love to see the Tigers do well. But I wanna ask and go back to talking about like some of that protection stuff as well before we wrap up the podcast, because we were talking a little about it when getting a coffee, and like obviously you've got older and you've spoken to counsellors and therapists or psychologists, whatever, all these times, and you start to reflect on, you know, you've gone through all these things, you've got into the situations where maybe you didn't act the best, and then half an hour later you're scratching your head, you're like, why did I say that? You know straight away. Have you started to think about where some of that stuff comes from? Like why you were this kid with this chip on your shoulder that felt like you had to protect yourself?
I reckon part of it, that's a great question, mate. Like, I think part of it's my childhood, not having a dad. Me and you both spoke about the similarities in our childhood, and not having the father figure to clip you over the ears, or not actually hitting you over the head, but like grabbing you by the scruff and neck and going, mate, you can't do this. Like, obviously had a mum that was mum and dad. So, like, her getting angry or sitting down having a serious conversation, I don't think would have had the same effect as if I had a grown man.
The same weight, right?
No, it doesn't, And, like, as a young boy, you should respect your father. Like, I respect my mum more than anyone. Single mother, I love her to bits, would do anything for her. But there's a different kind of respect I reckon a young man has for his dad, the leader of the family, whatever. Also had these underlying issues that were never addressed until I become a grown man. So, I mean, in hindsight, and hindsight's a great thing, I'd be a one club player at the Roosters, never done anything wrong, but I've done plenty wrong and made so many rash decisions. It started at my school days. You won't throw that apple at that kid all the way down there. Or give me the apple. You know what I mean? Or you won't tip this coat of paint along the footpath. Or give me the paint. You know what I mean? Like, I was always that kid that wanted to kind of like prove that, oh, well, if you say I can't do it, I'll do it. Which is, funny enough, actually helped me in the long run with my footy, because you can't go over to Super League and make a difference and do this. Well, I went and did it. You can't come back and help a team be successful. Well, Knights had the best finish they've had in the last 20 years and were 2 wins away from a grand final. So without putting that into the universe and saying I want to prove people wrong, that sort of thing as a child, like, you can't do that. It sort of actually always stuck with me and helped me. So it's a blessing and a curse, if you know what I mean.
100%. And I spoke to Ice about this, and it's like people hear the word ego and they just like there's a negative connotation with the word ego. Yeah. But you need a healthy amount of ego to achieve anything in life, to back yourself, to take the risks, right? It's like, it served you in so many ways and it's got you to where you are. But as you mature and you think, like, you know, the classic saying, it's in business, I'm sure they throw it around in sport as well. Like, what got you to where you are isn't going to get you to where you want to go. So it gets to a certain point where your ego served you. It's allowed you to take all the risks, to say, fuck you, I don't care what you have to say, I'm going to go out and prove you wrong anyway. Yeah. And then particularly in relationships, as you mature, trying to be coachable, there's certain times where it comes into play and it's like, okay, how do I reflect that and refine that? But there's something that man, it must have been tough. And I know this is not like a sob story for you in any way, and you're not looking for anyone's sympathy, but coming through at the Roosters, a club where, you know, your father won 3 Dally M Halfbacks of the Year, was in their team of the century, and I heard this quote of you. It's like, you walk throughout Roosters HQ and you see him everywhere. Like, you see him everywhere you look, but in real life, he was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, that's a good quote. I like that. It sounds actually more powerful coming from you than what it did when I said it. I remember saying it, and I remember, like, when I said it, it didn't mean nothing to me. It was just more of a throwaway line. And then I remember listening back to the podcast, and I was like, "Fuck, this actually hits home a fair bit more than what I actually wanted it to." But it was true, man. Like, there was big photos of him everywhere. Kevin Hastings this, Kevin Hastings that. Team of the century, blah, 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 best halfback to never play for Australia, all this shit. I'm wearing the same number as him, in the same colours as him. And then I was just on my own. So I was kind of like, I'm living up to this guy that's meant to be my hero, but he's nowhere to be seen. One thing that I will say is, like, for me, looking back on all the podcasts I've ever done, I kind of regret some things I've openly said about him, because, like, I've never wanted to publicly bag my dad or say he's a shit dad or he wasn't around, because, you know, I've made so many bad decisions that I know people that have bagged me for that would probably love to come up and go, "Mate, I'm sorry, I didn't really know the full story." And, like, my dad was actually at my 100th NRL game the other week, and it's not like we stood there and we got heaps of photos and, like, he was at the forefront of what it was about. But just having known that I'll be able to go to the grave one day knowing that I had my mum and my dad both at my 100th NRL game, which is something that means a lot to me. And they don't have to sit there and be best mates or even get along, but to know that I had both of my parents in the stands for that, and they were both in the stands for my debut, is something that, as I said, I can live with for the rest of my life. We're never going to have a father-son relationship that's, like, tight and a great bond. But just knowing that he's been at a few moments alongside my mother, like, that's always the underlying thing for me. Like, dad being there is great, but doing it with mum is obviously ultra special for me, because she's put in all the hours, been mum and dad, taking me to school, taking me to training, supported me, defended me on Twitter, defended me on Facebook, going to war for me no matter what.
She'll message the journos for you.
Oh, don't worry, she will. Shout out to Megsy, she'll get after him. But no, having both of them together, not actually sitting together, but both there, it actually means a lot to me. And I didn't think it would until it's kind of happened.
And I'm the same, and, like, people can sometimes, it's hard for them to understand. But, like, we only know what we knew. We don't know what it's like to grow up with a dad in our lives. Right. And I genuinely, like, I've got a good relationship with my dad now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Obviously don't see each other every week or fucking all the time, but we're completely sweet people. And I actually don't hold it against him, man, because, like, you know, things have come up in my life, and I can understand how and why he would have made certain decisions based on where he was at. So I don't. And, like, our dad's not being in our lives for the first part of it made us who we are.
Exactly, bro, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I wouldn't change it for the world. But there was something, and, like, I try and think back to my childhood, because it would have been the same, bro. And I feel like I can't remember much of it, so I must have blocked it out. But, like, and again, this is not like you don't know what I'm going to ask you. This is not no sob story stuff, but like hearing, like, you know, you're in school and it's Father's Day, and, you know, they come in to show all the work and stuff. And I'm like, "Jackson, where's your dad?"
Yeah, fuck, man.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, that was the weird one, man. Like, because mum worked so hard to, like, give me everything that I needed as a child. I remember, those days were like, all the parent-teacher interviews, sometimes, like, if mum was real busy, like, my nan and granddad would come. Yeah. And they're like, Mr. Hastings, and, like, we had a different last name. My mum's name's Harrod, so my granddad, big old tough. "I'm not Hastings, I'm Harrod." So it was embarrassing from the get-go. But then, like, I was always, like, really conscious of what my nan thought of me, and I never wanted my nan, God rest her soul, to ever think badly of me. And she'd always be, like, the sweet one. So, like, when she'd come to parent-teacher, fuck, man, I'd rather my dad be there to witness the brunt of what the teachers had said. But yeah, like you said, even going to, like, a mate's house, and they'd go, "Righto, boys, you want to go for a surf?" And their dad would come and, like, look after us, or want to go kick the ball down the park and play touch. And I always thought that was really cool, but there would always be a somber moment when I'd have a shower at their house, or I'd have a minute to myself where I was like, "Fuck, I'll never ever get to experience that." And I always said to myself, if I have a kid, I'll never ever let him go through that. And that's not a knock on my dad as a person. It's just what we've been through, both of us, and many people in the world have been through worse than we have. But I'll just make sure that's never the same.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like it shaped me more than I realized at the time until getting older and reflecting, because I think like that ADHD thing of protecting yourself, I never let myself think about the negatives of it, even though you would feel it at times,
sure.
you know what I mean? But one of the reasons why I held nothing against my dad and why I was so grateful for it was because of the special relationship I had with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And like I lived from when I was born to when I was 5 years old in the granny flat out the back of my grandparents' house.
Right,
so every night, fall asleep on my granddad's lap, he would carry me in, and it's like, bro, the relationship I had with them. My granddad died when like 8 years ago now, bro. He was my best friend, my hero, my father figure, absolutely everything. Showered me with love, so I never felt the lack of. And my nan, we only lost her this year.
Oh, sorry to hear.
No, but bro, her parents died in her late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. My granddad's parents died 99 and 93. Everyone thought he would live, 10, 20 years after her. Right. She outlived him by 7, 8 years. Crazy, blew everyone away. And, it's sad, but like grateful we had them and they're together now. That's truly what I believe. So it's special. But and you've spoken about having a stepdad and having a good stepdad. I say my stepdad's still married to my mum. My brother, that's his dad and always been around. Yeah. And he's always made an effort and he's always been nice. Yeah. But you're right, it never quite fills the void and feels the same as having your actual dad in the picture.
Nah, like my stepdad is arguably one of my best mates. I call him Smokey. We call him Smokey. He's got the same, his name's David. He's got the same name as his dad, and he's got a head that's beat up like Smoke and Joe Fraser. So we call him Smokey. But he gave me my two sisters. Like without him, I don't have Georgia and Jonty, and I don't have my two little sisters that I love dearly. So I mean, he was the bloke that taught me how to play cricket, wanted me to play cricket for Australia. He's the one that coached me through my junior years, and he's the one that always rings me when the journos are into me. So I love him. Like I can. He would have a little tear or laugh saying that, but I truly do love him and value what he's given me in life. We don't talk every day, but we talk at least once a week, and he's someone that I've got the ultimate respect for. So having him around, he never pushed being dad on me. Yeah, and he knew that he was never going to be dad or like dad, but he did a hell of a job in raising me. So I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, I remember that there was a period I had 3 older step siblings who lived with us for a few years, not the whole time, and I remember there was a period. And like, of course, they try and blended family, all that sort of stuff to call them mum and dad. And I just I could never do it.
Nah, bro.
Never felt right. I feel like we had a good relationship then. He was never mean to me, never left me out. But then only as you get older and you have a little bit more perspective and you realize you appreciate them even more and realize
100%.
how fucking much you do love them and how great they have been, because you weren't their responsibility and they're by far not perfect people. They're like our parents and our step parents are just doing the best with what they had. And there was no fucking handbook on how to navigate this shit.
Well, I couldn't picture taking on a 9-year-old now. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
Like if mine, and I always say this to my missus now, touch wood we don't, but if we ever broke up and I met another girl and she had a 7 or 8 year old, it's like, bro, I don't know if I could do that, because you're taking on the burden of someone else's child. Do you know what I mean? It's different if it's yours. It's like when you so when I first met my missus' dog, for example, Huey, who's now lives with us full time and I love him to bits, but I never loved him the same as my 2 dogs, and for ages. You know what I mean? It's weird. So I couldn't imagine taking on a child.
What's the process like? Because you mentioned when you were going over there, you couldn't take your dogs. Did you have to go through a quarantine period to bring the dog back from the UK?
So Amelia's dog, he had to get a year's worth of injections. He had to go get tests. He had to be cleared to fly. Had to get his nose sort of opened up a little bit more. French bulldog, they're never good at breathing, but. Then he was in quarantine for 10 days. It's now a month. It changed after we got it, but it was pretty special. The day we picked him up, obviously, Amelia hadn't seen him for nearly a year, I think it was. She left him to come out, and it's pretty cool. On her Instagram, she's got it pinned at the top of her thing. It was a pretty special day for her in particular, picking him up, because I know when I used to come home for Christmas or the day I come home for good, and I saw my 2 dogs and their reaction, it hits different, man. It's such a good feeling.
What sort of dogs do you have?
I've got 2 cavoodles, Bruce and Benji, so I'll show you.
Get us the photos out. I can love my dog, man.
That's not a good photo, sorry. What do you got?
She's a rescue. She's half golden retriever, half complete mix, Great Dane, Mastiff, and Bull Terrier.
Oh yeah, how old?
She's almost 3, or she's just over 2.5, but she just looks like a puppy black Labrador. Everyone thinks she's a puppy. She's almost 3 years old.
The two fluffy things are mine, and then the big Frenchie.
That's fucking cool.
It's
bro.
funny, like this one here thinks she's a big dog, but
it's like a big version of Ice's dog, Mellow.
Yeah. That's what it's like. They're like Mellow, but they're not as well behaved as Mellow. They can't walk without a lead and stuff. They'd take off. But,
Mellow, I think, was pissing all over what's his name's place. When he who was it? Well, fucking
Jackson.
No. The Union, Ice's good mate. What's his name? The fucking... Anyway,
Quade Cooper.
Quade Cooper pissing all over his shit. He's like, I still love you, but you're a little shit. So it's not as always well behaved as you think.
Yeah.
Getting off topic, but I want to know, like, obviously you're still contracted tonight for next year. That you've been in the media, all the speculation, but I don't know from you, what are your goals for the next 12 months? Like, what do you want to build beyond? I'm still only 28 years old. They say that's like the peak time for a half, finally starting to understand their game. What do you feel like the next 12 months has in store for you?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll probably be a roller coaster just like the last 12 months. But just to put the speculation to bed, I'm not going anywhere. Obviously, there was a few things written that I was going to Leeds, and the first time I heard of it was when I went to go get a coffee the next morning. I saw it on the back page, which was a little bit confronting. I had a few good conversations with the club and my management, and we're all on the same page too. So I'm really looking forward to, obviously, the next 12 months and hopefully beyond that at the Knights. Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time there. Like, honestly, since I've been at the club, I felt like I played some of my best footy since I've been in the NRL. As I said, the coaches really helped me become a better person away from the field, and we've met some long life friends that we're going to have way past our footy careers too. So, obviously, I've got 12 months to run, and then hopefully play good enough footy for them to want to keep me on board and can hopefully stay there for the rest of my career. As you said, like before, footy's a business now, so anything can happen, but definitely for the next 12 months, looking forward to putting on that red and blue jersey and playing some good footy for the Knights.
And so on a personal level, like you said, you played some of your best footy while at the Knights. As a club, probably weren't as consistent as you were in the back half of last year. What are some of the things you think you guys need to do to get back into playing your best footy?
Holding the ball. Like it sounds really simple, but for us, holding the ball, kicking well, and defending teams coming off their own line well, not giving away silly penalties, not doing kicks that fall short, making sure our chase is good, like just simple things like that. We know that we've got enough talent in the team. If we get down the opposition's end, we're going to score, but actually being down there long enough to score is a priority for us. So sounds so cliche, but holding the footy, completing well, defending well, not giving away penalties, that wins anyone games. You know, I think the Bulldogs, for example, are doing that as good as anyone, completing well, playing good footy, not giving away silly penalties, and just camping on the opposition's line. And that's what we did really well last year, and if we can do that towards the back end of the year, we give ourselves a shot to make finals. And then I know that if I was an opposition team, I wouldn't want to play us in finals just from the amount of talent that we've got, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we're looking forward to hopefully getting an opportunity to do that.
And do you have a preference between having the number 7 or 6 on the back, or is halves pretty similar for the way you play?
I don't care. I'm 6, 7, 9, 13 at stages. You know, I actually don't really care, man. Like, I feel like I can do every role that I'm asked to do. If you give me enough time, I feel like I can never master it, obviously, but get good enough at it to help our team win. I feel like whatever position I've played, I've always been able to contribute in a positive way to help the team win. So I think I'm a 7, like naturally born. Like my best skill set is about being a 7, but I feel like I can play a multitude of positions and do whatever the coach needs me to help us be successful.
Bit of a cliche, the term they throw around a lot, particularly, but like we spoke about you being like a footy nerd and all consumed about it, like just a footy player. You can get out there, whatever the coach wants you to, whatever role that is, you're happy to do that.
Exactly.
And something we won't spend too much time on it, but I know like you've started to like open your mind to like business and you said you potentially want to be a coach after footy. What are the sort of options? Obviously, I said you're in the prime like years for a half, so it's obviously footy and playing is your focus, but you know you got a lot of time in the off season to start thinking about and planning different things. Where do you see yourself going in the future after footy?
Yeah, I'm open to all things business. I've obviously got zero idea or what that looks like or how I'd even get started. I might have to start coming to a few e-com seminars. And,
hit me up, bro. We'll chat, man.
If I might have to buy into your business and do it the easy way. But no, in all seriousness, I'm actually like open to listen and go learn and explore what else is out there besides rugby league. I think that'd be pretty cool to have something like away from footy or something to look forward to after footy. But being so passionate about the game, coaching certainly one thing that, you know, I see the hours that our coaches do, and sometimes I go, oh, would I like to do that? But knowing that I'd be able to contribute to a young man's life and help him become a better person and player, that would be really rewarding. Player agent, my best mate's my manager, and it's really stressful but also rewarding when you get someone a contract or bringing someone back from England or helping someone make their NRL debut, like all that sort of stuff's cool. And then the media side of it too, like I've always thought about doing my own podcast and how that would look whilst playing, and you'd have to have the balls to like go on there.
It's tricky when you're playing, right?
Yeah, because you have to talk about the reality of what happened on the weekend. If you get slapped by 40, then you got to sit there and be honest with yourself. So that's always something that's been in the back of my mind, or even like the Fox stuff. Depends if they keep hammering me or not, but like stuff like that too. So my mind's open to anything really, and whatever sort of suits me best, and wherever I can make the best living will probably be the path I go down.
That's cool, brother. And I think for a man like yourself with your skill set, your experience, I think there's going to be many options, and it'll see like, what makes most sense at the time. But anything business, anytime, like I said to Blake, bro, hit me up, send me a message, we'll chat. Happy to be a part of that and share kind of my learnings and that as well. But bro, I'll be watching you closely, even closer after this. Good luck with the rest of the year, like with the run into the finals and next year and beyond, bro. Wishing you all the best and best of luck for the future.
Legend. Thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers, bro. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them, and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.